In today's webinar, we'll be diving deep into understanding how artificial intelligence helps in enhancing agent performance in call centers. Before moving forward, I'd like to introduce myself and our speaker for the evening. My name is Sakshi, and I am the Content Marketing Manager here at CallHippo. Our speaker is Mr. Tushar Jain, the co-founder of Enthu.ai. Moving forward, here's a little bit of brief about who we are and what we do. CallHippo is essentially a cloud-based business telephony solution that empowers businesses in establishing key connections with potential audiences and patrons across the globe. A lot can be done using CallHippo, including, but in no way limited to, setting up a business phone system in under 180 seconds, a fully automated AI-driven call listening insight tool, along with campaign tracking. Also, here are some key features that help in ensuring a smooth flow for your business. Along with that, CallHippo seamlessly integrates with 85 plus applications that ensure that your representatives are able to connect and foster great conversations without any interruptions. Now, moving towards Enthu.ai, it is a conversation intelligence platform that plays a crucial role in building a successful calling team. With its wide variety of offerings, Enthu.ai can empower you to unlock value from your day to day customer conversations. Now, before we move to the agenda for the evening, I'd like to inform all the people who are joining us today to drop in their queries in the Q&A section given right below. We'll be taking up all your questions in the last 10 minutes of the webinar. For a quick overview of the agenda, our today's session will be focused on understanding your existing agent evaluation and its shortfalls. We'll also discuss conversation AI for agent monitoring, agent performance evaluation, and agent coaching, along with closing the loop by understanding the impact of it. Now I pass over the baton to Tushar. Tushar, you may please share your screen and shed
Yeah,
light on the intricacies of artificial intelligence and its role in contact centers. Over
yeah,
to you,
sure,
Tushar.
sure. Thanks, Sakshi. And yeah, let me share my screen and share sound too. Yeah. So, hey everyone, I'm Tushar, the founder at Enthu.ai. By the way, thanks, Sakshi, for the introduction. Uh, Enthu.ai is, as Sakshi mentioned, is a conversation AI platform which lets you do three things very good, right? It helps you improve on three things, which is agent monitoring, performance, and coaching. Before I delve deeper into the platform, let me ask a question. I would like to know your role, right? What role are you playing in your organization? Is it sales? Is it support? Are you QA agent? Whatever it is, maybe you can drop within the chat section. The objective is I want to know what role you are coming from, and I'll tune my the agenda, the future agenda basis your role, so that I stay relevant. So how about you writing about your roles in, let's say, Q&A section, or whether it would be the chat section? So let's put it in Q&A. So maybe quickly drop your roles, and I'll then take it from there. So, oh, I have started receiving responses. Okay. So, okay, support. Then we have program managers, right? We have more people. I think they're dropping them in chats, which is success team. Okay, interesting. Who else do we have? Okay, so I think I'll take it from here. So we have people joining from success team, from sales teams, right? Some program managers. So the idea behind this, the webinar today is, I think you all have a context of agent coaching, right? You all are aware of that context, why agent coaching is required, and what benefits you can derive out of it. The objective today is to understand how the industry is evolving, how contact centers, how sales teams, they are coaching their agents better, and how speech AI is playing a part in it, right? So that's what we are going to talk about. By the way, I have some notes with me, so I'm going to refer them again and again. So the entire conversation is going to take three parts. The first part, I'm going to tell you and I'm going to discuss what are the challenges of agent coaching right now. In the second part, we'll actually deep dive into Enthu.ai, which is a conversation AI platform, and I'll show you how conversation AI can make this process better. We'll be talking about three things, which would be agent monitoring, agent performance evaluation, and agent coaching. And this would be followed up by the impact that conversation AI can, is driving for calling teams. So we are going to discuss all of these three quickly. Let's talk about the first part, which is, what do you expect from your calling teams, right? What's the fantasy land like where we all want to be? There are three parties involved in your calling teams. The first party is your agent, the second party is your supervisor and your QA team, and the third party is your operations team. So as a let's say person, as a stakeholder in a contact center, what's my expectation? I want my frontline team, which is my agents, to drive better customer experience, right? Because if they drive better customer experience, that directly and indirectly relates converts into more revenue, right? That's why I want them to drive better customer experience. When it comes to QAs and supervisors, I want them to run personalized coaching for these agents, right? Because if I can coach these agents better, they can drive better customer experience. And what I want from my operations team, I want that they take data backed decisions to drive my QA and agents. This is the fantasy land, right? Now let's understand, is it actually happening, right? The big question is, are we there? Unfortunately, we are not, right? Reality is we are not. And the one big reason is it's the coaching process. The way the coaching process is, you know, designed, it doesn't let us reach to that fantasy land. Now let's talk about the coaching process. By the way, the coaching process that we see, right? This coaching process is 20 years old process. The call center industry, it's an old industry, right? It's a very mature industry. Unfortunately, we are still following the coaching process that used to be there maybe 20 years, 15 years ago, right? And that's where the problem starts. Now let's talk about a typical call center environment, a typical calling team environment. So how does coaching happen? Let's say you have a quality teams. There are two people in that quality team. By the way, let me quote some stats here, right, which are both based on experience as well as research, right? In a typical call center environment, if you have 50 people, you have one QA looking into those 50 peoples, coaching those peoples. Now this 50 is to 1 ratio is the best case scenario. I have seen call centers which have 100 is to 1, you know, agent to coach QA ratio. Now this is if we have this type of setups, my QA can listen to only a limited number of calls, right? In a typical call center environment, my agent is making around 1,000 calls a month, maybe more, but my QA is listening to 6 calls a month. Again, this is the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is not even a one call. Yes, not even a one call. So my QA is not even listening to one call per agent per month. Now, when this is the setup, how I am going to coach my agents, right? So that's, can we do something about it, right? Again, let's take a step back and let's see how the QA process is happening. Right now, in a typical voice team, the QA process is completely randomized, right? What your QA does is they pick a call from your, let's say you are using a VoIP provider. Let's assume it's CallHippo. They pick a call, they listen to it, right? They randomly pick a call, right? And they listen to it and they give feedback to the agent. Now, in this entire process, it's a luck-based process. If you are lucky, which means if as a call center you are lucky, you will pick a call which is bad, which means you can give constructive feedback to your agent. But if you are unlucky, you will pick a call where there is no issue, right? And you will mark that agent as correct. And this is the moment when your QA process starts breaking, right? Why? Because you pick one call once a month, you give your agent feedback once a month, right? And this feedback is not immediate. This is sporadic. You pick a call today, right? At the end of the month, you are going to sit with your agents and give them feedback, right? So entire feedback process takes a complete month, which is complete. The feedback itself, the process is random, luck based, and it happens once a month, plus all the data that you are generating. There is no centralized data source. If I ask you, I mean, you don't need to answer this question, but ask it yourself. If your QA team has to give you data how your agent has performed in the last 4 weeks, in the last quarter, can they give you the data readily? Can they tell you that, okay, my agent Tushar, he is failing on a particular parameter, right? While he's consistently achieving parameter, let's say 3 parameters, he's going good, but there is one parameter on which he's consistently going bad, right? We don't have these centralized data sources in the call centers of today. And these issues result in what I'm going to show you as a process, as a if you talk about a coaching process, call quality process, it's completely reactive. My coaching is very, very slow. There is no in-depth analysis by my QAs. What they do is their focus is on listening to the calls, not on coaching, not on giving, you know, personalized coaching to my agents. As a result, my agents are demotivated. They don't know how to improve. And this somehow, somewhere, it results in attrition. Most of my, operational decisions, whether I should put more people, less people, I need to hire, fire, incentivize, these are gut based. These are not operational data based back decisions. And the worst thing, most of the contact centers, they go in firefighting, right? Firefighting in terms of operations, firefighting in terms of QA, firefighting in terms of understanding, I am doing everything right, but my agent is not improving. What should I do? Right? And that's what the objective of today's webinar is. We are going to show you how you can solve this problem, right? Guys, by the way, this was the last slide. Now I'll be just taking help of the slides, but I'll be taking you through the live platform and show you what's happening. So what I'm going to show you, right? Let me pull out my notes. So what I'm going to show you is three things: how you can better monitor your agents, right? Can you monitor 100% of your conversations? If yes, what insights you can drive out of it? Can you drive personalized insights? And basis those insights, can you run personalized coaching? Right? That's what I'm going to show you. I'll take a stop here. If you want to ask any questions, maybe take 30 seconds, put a couple of questions in the Q&A section, and then I'll move to I'll move to Enthu.ai and show you how conversation AI can help you across these 3 parameters which I just talked about. Okay, so meanwhile Garko is saying that he has solved the puzzle and we have to take his word. So perfectly fine, Garko, we take your word. So let me move to Enthu.ai and show you how conversation AI, speech AI can help you solve some of your worries. Guys, I hope you can see my screen and the audio quality is good. Probably as a fact check in the chat section, you can just type Y so that I know everything is good. Okay, great. So let me start with showing you what conversation AI can do for you. Okay, the concept of conversation AI or conversation intelligence, as we call it, it's very much straightforward, right? The concept is, can you monitor 100% of your conversations without actually listening to those conversations? Second, can you automatically surface out opportunities for your agents so that you can focus on insights, you can focus on giving coaching, not on listening to the conversations? And third is, can you run personalized agent coaching? And today I'm going to show you exactly how we do it using Enthu.ai, right? So everything that I talked about, this can be done in 3 to 5 screens. Okay. That's one of the USPs of the software, that it's not a complicated software. All it needs is 3 to 5 screens and you can run the process. This is the landing screen of Enthu.ai, right? The larger concept is that Enthu integrates with your VoIP provider. So for example, if you are using CallHippo, Enthu integrates with CallHippo. All your calls start flowing within Enthu.ai and automatically starts getting monitored, which means you don't need to lift even a finger. Everything happens automatically. Now let's understand the concept. Let's assume you are a call center where you are making outbound calls, right? These calls are for the leads that are leaving their information on your website, right? So let's say you are making calls to those people and you have a calling theme. Your calling theme is that your agent is supposed to make a call, right? He's supposed to do a salutation, he's supposed to introduce himself, then he's supposed to ask a couple of questions to validate whether the prospect is a right fit or not. Basis that, he's supposed to do some selling where he'll be talking about his USPs and features, and then he'll be talking about pricing and payment methods. So in a way, what has happened in Entho is all your critical aspects of a conversation, you can map them within Entho, right? Not just that, you can map it across teams. Let's say you have a sales team, you have a production team, you have a support team. You can have their individual, calling themes, and you can then see that, okay, my system has 115 calls. What's happening in my calls? So when it comes to, let's say, need validation, my 77 calls, the need validation use case was achieved. Whereas 38 calls, this use case wasn't achieved. The agent didn't talk about, these need validation use cases. Let's pick another example. I think it's a typical, the problem, not the problem, but the typical challenge. My agents most of the time sell on features, whereas I want them to sell on USPs. So can I see that, okay, my agents, 43 calls where no USPs were talked about, 76 calls where no features were talked about. Again, the entire objective is you still haven't listened to even a single conversation, but you know that, oh, this is what has happened in my calls. I'll give you another example, which is a sales example. Let's say I am running a campaign, a Christmas campaign where I'm running some discounts. I want to check, are my agents pitching this discount right? In how many calls this discount was pitched? So I know that in my out of my entire sample, this discounting part was talked about in 39 conversations, right? I think so far so good. This screen, this is the first screen. The objective of this screen is to show you what's happening in your contact center, in your voice team at a higher level without even listening to the call, even a single call. Now let's start digging deeper. Let's pick this particular use case which was around need validation. This is fine that 77 people, 77 calls had they had the need validation answered, 38 didn't have. What are the agents doing in these calls, right? If I talk about need validation question, the system gives you the data that what individually my agents are doing. So let's say if I take a look at, I have 3 agents in the system. This is, by the way, test data. So I have 3 agents in my system. John, in out of 112 calls, he achieved this need validation use case in 77 of his calls. Kara, she handled 3 calls and she didn't achieve this need validation use case. She didn't ask these questions in even in one of her calls, right? So what happens is we have started delving deeper into our conversations. Earlier we were looking what's happening at overall level. Now we are seeing what's happening at agent level. And this is where you start building a scientific basis for your QA teams. Your QA doesn't need to pick things randomly. They can delve deeper and they can say that, okay, today I'm going to see how my agents are pitching the discount, how they are asking the right need validation questions, and let me pull out the calls and see which agent is probably uh, let me pull out the calls by a typical agent. So I'll pull the calls from John and see uh, what I can do for it. Just give me a moment. I think the date range was not right. So what I have done is I have clicked on review calls here, and what the system has done is it has given you the information of all the calls that John handled, filtered by the filters which you see on the left. So for example, John is part of my sales team, right? I am looking at calls where there is a group called opening, and within opening there is need validation use case. So all these things that have been achieved, right? I want to see calls where these particular filters have been achieved. There are a couple of more filters that you can apply, again with an objective that I my QA team is still not listening to the calls. Can they see what has happened in the calls, right? Can I build my QA hypothesis better? So this is what you see. So let's pick the first call. This is the call that John made on this particular date. These are the to and from numbers. This was an outgoing call. And can we see what has happened in those calls in this particular call? So if I hover on this 12 and 6, you actually see what all movements were achieved, right? Salutation, introduction. By the way, all these things are custom defined. You can define them basis your need. This nothing is system defined. right? This is what's part of the configuration, system configuration, right? So at a high level, software is showing you that okay, all these things were achieved, all these things were missed, right? The score of this call as per script compliance is 64%. And now let's say your QA guy says that okay, this looks like an interesting call, I can figure out something from it, let me go and listen to this call. So what they do is they click on review, okay, and they get onto the screen, which is by the way the last screen of the software, right? The software is so simple, you do everything in 3 screens, right? This is the final screen of the software where on the top you can play the call, you can listen to the call. You can see that when your agent is speaking, when your client is speaking, you see a couple of monologues, you can also see dead air. But this is not the best part of the software. The best part is what I'm going to show you now. The best part is what you are seeing on your right hand side. What we have done is we have converted this entire audio conversation into a chat format, which means rather than listening to the call, your QAs, your coaches, they can read the conversation. They can find for keywords. Let's say I find for discount, right? There is no discount. Let me search for plan, right? There are some words around plan. Your people can search for keywords, right? Now comes another best part. Let's say your agent starts, your QA guys, they start looking at the conversation. Right now, what the process is, if you're not using a speech AI software, they will get into your calling software. They will start listening to this conversation end to end to make meaning out of it. Can I reduce your listening time by any chance? Yes, Enthu can. Let's go back to our another example, which is the need validation use case. What Enthu has done is Enthu is telling you the keywords which were asked in this need validation use case, right? So number one, you now know what all, the conversation, what keywords were talked about. You want to listen to that particular aspect, let's click on this part,
Okay.
right? What
Now,
happened was Enthu automatically seeked the audio to 1 minute. Plus, on the right hand side, it automatically brought the dialogue where this particular keyword outgoing was talked about. See, outgoing call, right? In a way, what has happened is you don't need to listen to the call end to end. Just look at the keywords. Do your QA can do a quick, a quick fact check, listen to that call to that particular piece, and he or she can say that oh, everything was right, or something was not right, and they can then give the feedback. Which brings us to the third part of the screen. Can you record your feedback? Right now this entire feedback thing, it happens through Excel sheets, through emails, and through Word documents. What we have done is we give our customers an option to define their custom feedback form, which means you can fill in your feedback as yes and no. As you put in a yes, your score will, it will start in your agent will be basically start getting evaluated. And finally, you can share this feedback both with your agent as well as with their supervisor. What it means is your process, which is right now you sit with your agent one fine day in a month and give them the entire feedback, this process is now immediate. Once you click on submit, your both your agent and supervisor, they will get an email with this particular screen. They can read through your feedback, they can listen to this conversation, and they can also see this, the keywords. Which means your agent doesn't need to wait till, till the point when he gets feedback. He doesn't repeat his mistakes. He immediately gets the feedbacks, he can act upon his mistakes, right? Act upon the improvements. And that's how, the agent coaching is immediate, right? Any question here? I'll take a 30-second stop, maybe I'll have a sip, and you can write your questions in Q&A. By the way, we'll answer the questions towards the end of this section, end of the session, right? So I'll move to the last part of the conversation, which is the reports part. Now, understand it from a perspective. You started with 1,000 conversations, right? Your agents got a your QA got a perspective to frame QA hypothesis better, right? And they eventually landed with 15, 20 calls. They listen to these calls, they give the feedback, right? They filled in the evaluation forms. Now what after that? Can we derive some intelligence out of these forms? Yes. The reports are built to derive intelligence both from conversation AI as well as from the uh, from the forms that your QAs are filling. And that's what I'm going to show you in the next part, right? So this is the summary part. Reports are divided across two parts. One is the teams. I'm so sorry for this. One is the teams part, the other is the agent part. When we talk about team, it's going to show you that, okay, what's your sales team has achieved, what your production team has achieved. These are a couple of metrics, and below you have a laundry list of your calls. Now let's move to the evaluations part within the teams thing, right? What I have done is I have bring the matrix of June, which is week on week. So what the software is actually showing you is that week on week how my team has performed across a couple of factors. So let's say this is a test data. I have a couple of factors. My first evaluation criteria is compliance to procedure. Are my agents adhering to the the uh, compliance, the procedure part? How good is their communication skills, the resolution, etc., etc., right? So what we have done is we are telling you that week on week this is your overall score. These are the calls that your QA evaluated, right? Number of calls evaluated, and the score was 86.7% of your entire team. If you want to see a breakdown of these scores, so you can see here. So if we talk about compliance to procedure, it showed an upward trend and then it immediately reduced. So you can go down, you can do some analysis, trend analysis, and see what's happening across your teams, right? Which parameters are they performing, which parameters they are not performing, right? It's at a higher level. Let's say you want to dig even further, right? So what you can do is, let's say when it comes to compliance to procedure, there were a couple of questions in your evaluation forms. How, which parts are getting missed consistently? So if I talk about this particular part, which is, are your agents using tool and system, right, while talking to the customers and prospects? In week 4 there was one hit, which means your agent missed this part. In week 5 again, they have a negative rating on this part. Similarly, at a team level, you can do a deep dive that when it comes to tone and voice, these are the particular 3 questions. By the way, if you are getting confused with how we bring these questions, these are nothing but your uh, I showed you a screen where, just give me a moment. Okay, so uh, this is nothing but your QA evaluation form, right? So the data that you fill in your QA evaluations, we start recording it, we start bifurcating it, we start visualizing it. So this is what happens at an at a team level. You want to do the same analysis at agent level? Yes, you can do it. Let me show it to you. Let me pull the data from June. So at a summary level, you can see that, okay, by the way, this is test data. You can see that, okay, John, he handled these many calls. This was his talk time, average talk time, and so on. But you can deep dive further, which means week on week, how John was performing, right, in his evaluations, right? If you want to see where John was hitting, so you can see that John had 3 hits across compliance to procedure in week 1. In week 2 again he was hitting on 2 failures. Again in week 3 he has 2 failures. If you download the reports, you can get the exact question or exact parameter where John is consistently failing. So you know that when it comes to coaching John, he doesn't need coaching in communication skills, he doesn't need coaching across these 2 parameters. Probably where he needs coaching is this compliance to procedure part. So let me have John in a session and let me tell him that, John, this is what you have been doing, how we can improve your compliance to procedure part. So this is how you run coaching faster, and you can also personalize your coaching. So I think, let me move back to the slides. If I have anything else for you, right? So we talked about this one. How you do better agent monitoring, I show you. So what you have to do is, I mean, what Enthu or conversation AI helps you do is, it helps you monitor 100% of your conversations. It helps you proactively monitor your conversations. So the entire QA part, which was reactive, which means if I happen to be lucky, I happen to reach to a particular call, then I know what the issue is. That equation has flipped. You immediately know where the problems lie, right, through this screen. And by the way, you can also trigger alerts. Let's say if you want to trigger an alert that some pricing related thing happens, I want to trigger an immediate alert. Enthu can drive, Enthu can drive email triggers, right? Second, if we talk about agent performance and evaluation, you saw that how you can build your extensive QA hypothesis. You don't need to focus on a random process. You now have a scientific process. And when it comes to coaching, you can run personalized coaching because of the the parameters, the data that we are capturing, and the entire way the system has been designed, right? Return on investments, these are some of the metrics that we are driving for our customers. These are real metrics which where we have where we have implementations and we are driving them. So it helps you improve average increase in win rates. Why? Because you now know what your agents are doing, right? You can fine tune their pitch, you can fine tune their entire positioning, and that helps you close better. It helps you reduce churn both proactively and reactively, right? Reactive is the specifically for customer support teams and success teams. Something bad has happened, you can immediately know that, okay, this was the particular conversation and how the agent handled it. Or you can also see that across 30 days what has been the continuous complaints that my customers are raising, the continuous challenges, and you can funnel this feedback back to your product team, back to your marketing teams, right? We see an average increase of 7% in CSAT score. Onboarding, yeah, right, the onboarding process, it's painful. I know, I empathize with you. We have processes, something like we barge into the calls, we listen to the calls randomly. But using Enthu, you can know that, okay, what my new agents are doing. You don't need to listen to their calls. Conversation AI is going to tell you how their calls are happening, right? You save a lot of QA time, and obviously you save a lot of reporting time. uh, some more stuff on return on investment, right? What work your QA is doing in 1 hour. Let's say he or she is listening to one conversation and giving feedback to one agent, one call per agent in an hour. Using Enthu, they can fasten the process by 5 times. That's the metric that we have witnessed across our customers, right? Why? Because a 10 minutes conversation, you can actually fast track it. You can listen to it probably in 1 minute, in 2 minutes. You don't need to listen to it end to end. Quickly listen to it, right? Make a sense of the conversation and give feedback to your agent all within the same platform. And we talk about onboarding. I showed you how you can monitor your conversations of new joinees better, right? So you don't need to barge into their calls. You don't need to, shadow them. Just give them the platform once a day, get into the platform, see what they are doing within the through the platform, give them feedback. Let your feedback be actionable and immediate rather than waiting for some time, right? So I think this is all from my side. Sakshi, how do you suggest we take it forward? uh, do we take the Q&As now? So guys, open for Q&A, right? You please feel free to ask questions, and we'll then take it up one by one.
Thank you, Tushar, for sharing the insights. Guys, the floor is open for questions, as Tushar mentioned. And Tushar, we already have a few queries in the Q&A tab. So if you would
Okay.
go through it, we have a few questions there.
Sure. Okay. So let me take the first question. Can there be multiple Enthu.ai call templates? We are a general call center for several dozen companies' clients. So yes, you can have multiple call templates. In fact, Enthu can replicate your, call center process. So we have customers. By the way, our typical clientele includes call centers where they have multiple clients. Even for multiple clients, one client can have a separate outbound and a separate inbound process. That's the level at which Enthu.ai can replicate your process. So to answer your question, yes, we are suited for multiple templates. The next question is Enthu.ai available in Dutch? Not at the moment. Enthu.ai is available in English, and very soon we are coming up with Spanish language. I am expecting that a couple of more languages, including, I'm not sure about Dutch, but yeah, German and French will be going live in the next quarter. So that's what the expectation is. Let's see how we go. Does this need AI to be okay? Sorry, does this AI need to be trained by the user? Yes, I think AI software, any AI software needs training. However, it doesn't mean that, Enthu.ai starts from zero. There is some intelligence built into it, right? You start probably from 60 to 70%, right? As time goes by, Enthu.ai starts learning on its own, but as a user, you don't need to train it. It learns on its own. And the software is ever evolving. We are the model is evolving. We are improving our algorithms, and I'm sure this AI, this part, because this question gets asked often a lot, that how your model trains, right? So you have the option where you can say that, okay, I don't want Enthu to use my conversations for training, which is fine. But if you give us that right, the model gets trained using your conversations. How about Hindi language such as Gujarati, Telugu, etc.? Any plan? Okay, so in languages we also support one more language, which is English. What I mean is, it's a mixture of Hindi and English, right? So it's something like WhatsApp. If you are from India and you do conversation with your friends, what we do is we use Hindi, right? But we use English type font, right? So that's what Enthu does is, it converts your English conversations into English language, which means you, in the transcript, you will see both Hindi as well as English. But English would be written in, sorry, but I'm sorry for getting confused, but Hindi would be written in English format, right? I hope this answers your question. It's a little confusing. How do I know whether Enthu works with my particular contact center software? I suppose there can be a switch to CallHippo, but that would be a big step. So, guys, Enthu right now integrates with 15 VoIP providers, with 15 call center softwares. But if Enthu doesn't work with your software, we are open to building that integration. I think, if you talk about the VoIP market, the call center market, there are probably maybe 500 players who are into this telephony provider. So practically we can't integrate with all of them. But yes, if you happen, so how the process works is, let's say you want to try out the software, you don't need to worry about integrations. Come to Enthu, we'll put you on a pilot, right? Where your integration won't be done. You can manually upload the calls into the software, right? We'll upload the calls, we'll show you the proof of concept, you will see how, we'll give you the access, and for the next 14 days you try out the software, right? And once you are ready, you see that, okay, there is value involved, I want to commit. That's the point when we start building the integration, if it's not already there. If it's already there, we'll put you on integration right on day one during your pilot, right? So that's how the integration piece works. And for us, integration is not a big thing. Integration is, we have already integrated with 15 providers. The 16th one is not a challenge. It's just that it takes at least 1 week, 1.5 weeks. That's the timeline that we take. But otherwise, integration is not a challenge per se. Sakshi, you see any question, any more questions, or this is it?
No, no, Tushar. I guess we've answered all. Apart
Okay.
from the small reward you'd promise to the ones who were able to answer the query
Okay, so
directly.
yeah, so
Yeah.
for the person who is, yeah, who answered the question, so we'll extend their pilot to 21 days, and we generally give 2 to 3 agents free. We can put their 5 agents on the pilot, right? So that's the offer for the. I think there is one person who responded,
Yes.
so he's eligible. Maybe we'll connect with him offline.
Yeah. So, Goko, if you need anything in this regard, please feel free to contact us, and we'd be more than happy to provide the details to you. Thank you, Tushar. This was truly insightful. I hope all of you enjoyed the webinar as much as we enjoyed organizing it for you guys. Thank you for coming, and I wish you all a great rest of the week. Thank
And
you.
one last thing, guys, if any
Yeah.
of you want to connect, right? Here's my email ID. It's tushar@enthu.ai. You can also go to our website and, take a look at it, understand what the concept is all about. And if you want a conversation, we can have one-to-one conversations. We'll be very much open for that. Thanks a lot.
Th- Thank you. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. Take care. Have a great rest of the day. Bye bye.